Oh, good morning to you all, good morning. It is Friday, Vendredi, 26th of June 2020. Oh dear, I really ought to do something better with beans than bits of string, but you know, I've got other things to do, and what I am pleased about, it's dinner in a couple of days' time, and there are some lovely things happening, and they sort of happen without too much intervention on my part. The rose cuttings that I took last October, well, some of them died. That's to be expected, but some of them are thriving, and yeah, in a few years' time they will give some marvellous displays. And silly sort of things, you see, people think in terms of how much things cost. They cost me nothing. One of my neighbours has got an apricot tree, and last year she had this embarrassment of fruit that she asked myself and a couple of other people if we wanted some, and we did, and we picked lots. And before I actually cut her lawn last year, before I did that, I raked all the ones that had dropped, and I ended up with this pile of apricots. Now, I do have to say they're not quite the same as the apricots you buy in supermarkets in England. They're supermarket buyers wouldn't expect English housewives to buy them, but they are delicious, and some of them have got holes and worms and maggots and things like that. So I buried a handful of them in that spot there, and the result is we've got apricot trees. It will be a few years before they give any fruit at all, but they will one day give somebody some fruit. What else are we looking at? Oh yes, I've got some very pretty flowers coming on some plants here, and aren't they delightful? Yeah. They're a delight. They give the bees something to eat, and they will give me something to eat later. And these, well, I was given the remnants of a packet of pumpkin seeds. There was about a dozen seed in the packet, so I took 4 and planted them, and I gave the rest to another friend who planted them, and they've gone sort of a bit wild and loopy, but they're threatening to have some beautiful flowers, and come October hopefully we'll have some big pumpkins. Very pleasing, all very pleasing, and yeah, not a lot of effort involved, frankly, but I've got things to think about this morning. And the foreman is demanding that I get something done, or at least if I don't get something done, yeah, she probably thinks I ought to feed her. Now, every morning when you check your social media, mainstream media probably gives you horror stories about how much the dollar is worth against the yen and how much the pound is worth against the euro. But here we have a different sort of currency. This is the currency of choice. If you give people these, they are happy. and they give you pumpkin seeds. So yeah, that's currency. You pick them up because we use them for all sorts of things. I'm starting to build the stack of firewood for winter, and the idea is you cut your firewood to sensible sizes. Yeah, she demands food, then she sort of yeah, you cut your firewood and you fill little boxes like that with firewood, and they're easy to handle and easy to stack. So there we are. Now what I should be doing today is I should be putting framework on these beams like that. But there is a little problem that, owing to supply difficulties at the moment, the store didn't have what I wanted. Not a problem, I've got other things to be doing. I can carry on making good on that wall, but I've got another thing that I've sort of identified as a job to do. It's exciting coming up here, isn't it? Yeah, I've got things to do up there, but I've been thinking, and what this bathroom desperately needs is a window, because when the job is finished there will be a stud wall there, and a ceiling, and things like toilets and baths and showers and things. But what this space desperately will need is some light. Now, normally when you build a house from the ground up, you put the windows in before you finish and top out, or at least you leave the holes for the windows. But I'm going to create a hole there and put a window in, and yeah, whether I start that today or not depends on what the shop has got. I need to take that down. Yeah, that could be interesting. That would be good to get that one down. So plenty to do, but it starts with me jumping in the jalopy and going off to the shops. And going to the shops, for a lot of people in the world, going to the shops is a pain in the neck. It's a miserable experience. Trying to work out where to park and how close you can get to the door of the shop, and will there be trolleys, and have they got strawberry flavoured bioactive yogurt and all of those. Yeah, going to the shops for many people is a miserable experience. I find it's an absolute delight. This is the main road to the shopping centre, and it's just wonderful. And we have traffic jams. Yeah, there's an interesting machine. They use these wonderful sort of loader things for shifting the big rolls of hay. Oh, that's got a bucket on that one. But of course this is an agricultural, rural part of the world, and that's all part of the fun. A lot of the crops, a lot of the wheat has already been cut, and the fields where they grow fodder, grass and clover and alfalfa and all of those sorts of good things that cows like to eat, they've been cut and rolled. the left was a field of sunflowers waiting to burst into flower. Turnsol, absolutely beautiful to see when they're in full flower. And that's a field of maize on the left. Sweet corn, yeah, maize. We did have a little drop of rain in the night, which that was sort of useful. That will save me worrying too much about watering today. The field on the right is sunflower, as I say, Turnsol. For those of you, when you can travel and come to France, and you rent a gîte, do self-catering, when you go to the supermarket to buy cooking oil, you'll see quite a lot of bottles of cooking oil labelled Turnsol. There's a field of wheat waiting to be cut. They grow several different sorts of, I'll say wheat, you know, wheat, barley, oats, things like that. The little corner where there's a memorial to the French resistance fighters that were killed here fighting. They tend not to say the Germans, they tend to say the National Socialists, because of course it wasn't as simple as Germans. There was all sorts of people involved in it. This used to be the railway, little single track rural line that was lifted quite a lot of years ago. More sunflower. That's going to be spectacular when it all opens. Many places here use a lot of firewood. A lot of houses, that's the method for heating. So there is cut, stacks of cut wood. They leave it 18 months or so before you put it on the fire. Gives it a chance to dry out a bit. And on the left, Les Vaches. I would have said they were Limousin, but they got a look of Jersey about them. They're too big to be Jerseys. And on the right, just coming up, Charolais. That'll make some good rump steaks. you come up behind one of these little cars, it's always worth remembering that the people that drive them, they drive them for a reason. You don't need a driving license to drive one of these, and very often it's older people, or yeah, a lot of folk that perhaps their driving skills may not be quite what we'd hope for. So you don't take liberties when you come up behind one. Well, lunch has been taken, tea has been drunk, biscuits have been eaten, cat's been fed. I've put it off. But sooner or later this beam has got to come down. It's oak. It's heavy and it's long, and I can't get under it at that end. So what we've done, using the ladder, we got up there and we've tied a bit of rope round the beam, the poutre, which is sort of crossed over, and it's tied off on some heavy stuff down below. Yeah, this could be interesting. Could end in tears. Oh well, only one way to find out. Well, a certain amount of huffing and puffing, and yeah, for the record, I'll say lift it. It is within my personal lifting capacity, but I will say just. It's oak, it's heavy, it's what, 10 and a bit foot long, and yeah, it came out and it can stay there now. It's not in my way this afternoon.